Good morning, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, my thoughts and reflective time have all been focused on relativity and the theory of relativity. Now, some of you know that I work with quantum physics in my care, and I really feel that it makes a difference. So I thought, how would I share this with people in terms of a simple way to explain it? So, first of all, I came across this quotation, which I wanted to share. And this quotation says, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Okay, so here we say it again. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. And so, of course, I thought this was quite nice to be able to share with you that, again, when we're even thinking about emotional intelligence, the same ideas come up, that everything comes from a particular perspective, and this is also relativity. And then I came across this great lecture where this gentleman shared a story, which is not true, but gets the point across. So he said that this older woman sat down on a bench and suddenly looked across and saw the person that was sitting on the other end of the bench. And she thought she recognized him. So she said, "Aren't you Albert Einstein?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be sitting here. Tell me about the theory of relativity." And he was a little bit taken aback, and he thought, how would I explain this in a short way to this woman as we're sitting on this bench? I'm only going to be here for a short time. So then he thought about it, and he said, if I sit here and chat with you for 1 minute, it might feel like an hour to be talking with you. Yet, if I sit and talk with your beautiful young daughter for 1 hour, it would probably feel like 1 minute. This is relativity. And I thought that was fantastic. I just absolutely loved that because it's very true, right? It really depends who we're interacting with as to what our time feels like too. But that story would have come from an idea behind this quotation that I'll read to you. This quotation says, "When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, you think it's only a minute. But when you sit on a hot stove for a minute, you think it's 2 hours." That's relativity. So you get it, right? It's the exact same idea for both, and I love it. So this is relativity, that it all depends. Now remember that, let's say sitting with a nice girl seems like it goes very fast, right? That's such a pleasant experience. But let's say the person sitting with a nice girl has just had an argument with that nice girl. And let's say she was really quite not kind in her expression. Maybe she was yelling, screaming, anything that really made the person feel very not comfortable. Now, when that person is sitting with that nice girl, she might not seem so nice. And now, what seemed like a very short time, it might be that he's only there for a minute, but it will seem like a very long time, right? So, this is again relativity. And when we look at it, this is how our life experience shapes us. So, even something that we really like can change based on a new experience. I was thinking about, even if you were to have an apple, for example, let's say you love apples and you have an apple every day and you just love them. And one day you bite into your apple and it's filled with worms. Oh my goodness, this completely changes your feeling about apples. Now, it's the first apple that you've had that has been filled with worms. And you recognize that I'm just going to throw that away and not have that apple. But the next time you pick up an apple, you're going to think twice. You'll have a slightly different perception of that apple. Maybe now you'll cut it rather than biting into it. Something will change because of that experience. This is relativity. And I'd love for you to sit for 5 minutes today and think about how perhaps you are changing in your life experiences based on, this is how I thought of this before, then I had this experience, and now this is how I think of it now. And I understand it's because of that experience. Though, if we think about the nice girl, she hasn't changed, right? She's still the same nice girl. But your perception would have changed in that experience, or your perception of the apple would have changed. So sit for 5 minutes and just think about one thing where you can recognize, my perception has changed. And this can be in a good way too, right? So let's say you see a person every single day and maybe you pleasantly smile and say hello. And then one day you have this opportunity to have this great conversation with the same person. suddenly the person that just seemed like just another person that you say hello to seems like a really special person. This is also relativity. So sit and think for 5 minutes about one experience that you recognize, yeah, I used to think this way about this, then this experience happened, and now I think this way about this. And I will finish today with one more quotation. And this quotation says, on the verbal level, everything is relative. Absolutes should be experienced, not discussed. Okay, so on the verbal level, everything is relative. Absolutes should be experienced, not discussed. So, what is something absolute that we might all experience that is just through experience that we know? I would say one of the easiest things that I can think about is the experience of love. It's one of those things that you can discuss it, but it's the experience that you really understand. And that experience is not relative, it's absolute. So I leave you with those thoughts for today, and I hope you have a fabulous day ahead. And remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.